Welcome. I'm so glad you're listening. So it seems that Jesus probably went up in this area, Bethsaida, right here, house of fishing. Means house. And there's two Bethsaidas. The other one is over here, Capernaum is probably in this area. Well, it is, right in this area. And Bethsaida is also in this area, or over here by the place of Gennesaret, the beautiful gardens there. Beautiful plain, I should say. It's a plain of... So this is where he is probably. And by the way, this story mentions what we're going to talk about is this, probably just north of Bethsaida. Do you see that purple spot? Probably in this area is the story, is where it actually happened. But then it says in the next story, after that, that he told the disciples to get on a boat and go to Bethsaida. But he's already right here. So I think he went over here. So it's funny from Bethsaida to Bethsaida. But anyway, here we go. What happened? This is a powerful story and it has so much significance. And all four writers, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, they wrote their Gospels, the story of Jesus. And this is the only miracle, besides the resurrection, of course, this is the only big miracle that all four of them mentioned. Do you know what it is? He fed with 5 loaves. Loaves is about this big, not big. He fed with 5 loaves and 2 fishes, small fish. John mentions it was small. Probably the size of a sardine. Maybe like that. He fed with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Are you ready? Probably 15,000 or 20,000 people. Well, we know about, it's rounded off. I love how the Bible rounds off numbers as we do nowadays in modern times. 5,000 men, about 5,000 men. And I believe a lot of women were there. We know that Mary Magdalene and Suzanne and Joanna and other women followed him all the time. So there were a lot of women, I think, because they brought their wives and they were curious about Jesus. And then if you have a husband and a wife, what do you have? Children. How many children? Who knows? Did all of them come? No, of course not. It's not like millions of people came. 5,000 men is a lot. And it's just talking about the men, not counting, it even says not counting the women and the children. So they were there too. So let's say we have half and half. Maybe it wasn't as many women. Maybe they're at home, you know, and they're beautiful families with their kids and all. A lot of them probably stayed home, but a lot of them didn't. Let's say it's 4,000 women. Could be 5,000. Well, let's say 4,000. That's 9,000 people. And a lot of the couples would bring their children, depending on how old they were. So let's say each one of them had 2 children. 9 times 2, 18,000. Who knows how many? And a lot of times they have big families. 5, 10, 15 kids. That's a lot. It's a big miracle, excuse me. So we know what time of the year it was too, because 3 out of the 4 Gospels mention grass. I think it's Luke that didn't mention the grass. Mark, which is what we're studying, Mark 6, this is where the story is found in, says it was green grass. Now, why are they mentioning grass? Why is he mentioning green grass? Who does that? Because in this particular area, in this region, Galilee, green grass means that it was just after rain, a lot of rain. That happens in our land, you know, it rains and you got a lot of growing grass, you got to mow the lawn. Well, this is green grass. Good place to sit down, by the way. And unless you get itchy or something. But then they had robes. And anyway, here we go. Green grass, which means it was most likely springtime. Probably mid-April, which also is around Passover time. A lot of interesting things. So I like this, how it kind of tells us the time of where Jesus was, when he was. All right, here we go. Are you ready? So it says, immediately Jesus made his disciples go, no, that's a little bit later. He says, some people, here it is. Yes. Yeah. By the way, it just ended up talking about Jesus teaching many things. Remember in the last story, last video, many things. I just would like to hear a couple. Of course, we have a lot of it right here, but much stuff we never heard. Many things. So he talked and talked and talked big time. And he basically spoke probably all day, like hours. Oh, I love to sit at the feet of Jesus and hear him. And as they were sitting there, hour after hour, it became late in the day. And they had gotten very hungry. It's like going to church all day and you go, wait, I haven't eaten. So the people were really hungry. The problem is, it wasn't like there was, get your popcorn here, hot dogs, going around selling food or something. You didn't have any of that, no concession stands, like in an arena or something. This is outdoor. And so they weren't real close, not too far, but not real close to villages in the towns. So the disciples came to Jesus and they said, so this is probably what it was something like. See if you can see, these are supposed to be all these crowds of people, masses of people, multitudes of people. Just think about that. Not tens, not 20s, not hundreds, thousands of people, thousands had gathered. And the villages, this represents the villages, they were kind of like around it, surrounding different places, all these villages. See all those dots? See all those dots and all. The thing is, they were in an isolated desert. It wasn't desert because it was grass, but it was a desolate, like separate away from everybody. And if they need to get home, it's getting late. They're going to have to get, to the closest village so they can buy some food before they go home or something. So this became a dilemma. This became a kind of difficulty. And so the disciples came to Jesus and mentioned this. I love Jesus. That's what he says. This is so cool. So it says, where is it? Yeah. Okay. By this time it was late in the day, so the disciples came to him. This is a remote place, like far away from everyone. The villages. And it's already very late. Send the people away so they could go to the surrounding countryside and the towns and the villages and buy themselves something to eat. Jesus looked at him and said this. And I love how Jesus says something. It's a punchline. Yeah, pop it, just push it in there. Excuse me. And he said, you give something to eat. You, and that's an emphasis right there. It says, you give something to eat. It was a personal pronoun, you. You think you have food for 18,000? Or let's say it's low number, 12,000, 15,000. You think they had enough food for all of them? Are you kidding? It would be boatloads. Speaking of boats, the disciples didn't carry around their big canoe, their big boat. So, wait a minute. Excuse me. They're suggesting to go to the towns and villages. And he said, no, give them something to eat. Now, he knows that they don't have that food. And they probably just sat there for a second and stunned. Like, how can we do this? Then this is what they said. They said, that would take maybe 8 months, maybe a year. We'll say it's about 8 months. Some say it's about a year. 8 months of man's wages, people's wages. Wages mean get paid, And what he's talking about denarius here. And a denarius is a silver Roman coin. Let's pretend this is a denarius, like a silver Roman coin here, like this. And so he said, see, if you get a coin like a denarius, then it pays you for a day's work. You get a good day's work, like for a working man. So you go to work, they pay you that, and hopefully you come back the next day, and they pay you each day. Okay, so here it is. So they expected some money. I mean, they said to him, this would be 200, basically, 200 denarii, if that's the correct word, denarii, the plural of it. To buy that much food, it would take 8 months of wages. You have to work for 8 months, let's say, and then you could have enough money to buy the food to feed one meal to all these people. And I love it. Then, and he said this. Okay, so they said, are we going to go and spend that much bread and give it to them to eat? And then Jesus asked them a question. Jesus does ask us questions a lot of times. I love it. He asks a lot of questions. It's a good thing to ask questions. How many loaves do you have? What do you have? What food do you have? Go and see. So they didn't have any on hand for themselves, and they started looking around and found somebody who had some food. Guess who it was? It was a boy. Yay! Yay for kids. This is a story that has a kid in it. There's a lot of stories in the Bible about kids. But anyway, they said they found a boy. And I don't know if the parents were with him. He was old enough to go with them. I don't know, maybe it was uncles. I don't know. But there was a boy who had, we'll call it a lunch. He had his lunch. He carried around. At least one guy came prepared. That kid did. And he had 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Now, what type of loaves? This is what it was, basically. So it was barley. John says that. I love how you put it all together. You kind of get it. So there were 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And probably it was kind of a circular thing, maybe. This isn't barley, by the way. It was like my hand span is 7.5 inches. So if you go a little bit further than that, let me get this real quick. If you go a little further, then it's about 8 inches. Can you see this? This wide. So it's not a big loaf. Loaves of bread, we think about a big loaf like that. No, it was approximately 8 inches across, diameter like this. And it was 1 inch thick. And the measurement of this bread right here, one of these right here, okay, right there, is 1/2 inch. I measured it. And so if you put 2 of them together, like this, that's how thick the bread was. So it's not that big. As a matter of fact, for big guys, and a lot of people there eating, you would have several of those for a meal. You would eat that bread. Bread was a staple food. Fish was too. Those are the 2 big, most popular food items that they ate in Galilee. Right there. Fish was right there in the Sea of Galilee. And the fish were sardines size. Oops. And right here, here's a fish. It was be a little bit larger. So you got these fish also here. And so that boy had caught some fish. Usually it could be like dried. Can you see this? Here. It could be either dried probably or smoked fish. Okay, so here's the other one too. I have 2 fish here, like this. Okay. I love fish. By the way, I don't have sardines, but usually I have sardines on hand. But anyway, here we go. Cut the heads off or whatever, maybe not. And there's a fish. Some eat fish eyes. I've heard people eat eyeballs of fish and all that. They eat the whole fish, I guess. All right, so this boy had 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, about like this or something. All right, he gave it to him. Yeah, here. He could have said, wait a minute, I'm hungry. I'm going to need this for later. I'm hungry right now. He's just here. And they brought it to Jesus. There it is. Whatever you have, bring to Jesus. If you're struggling as you get older with money, bring whatever money you have, give it to him, like give it in giving and all that. And also just give your life to him. Whatever you have, your life doesn't seem to be significant, he makes it great. He made these fish. Let me put this fish up here. I don't know if you can see them. So here's a fish here. Little thing here, a little bit amount, and God made it great. Jesus Christ took these and he multiplied it. And they had some baskets. People carry baskets all the time. And so they ended up having baskets, and they took it and put the fish in there, and it just got, I love to see it. Did it disappear? I don't know how it happened. I don't care. God does miracles. He can do it. And it just kept coming and coming. And first they divided the groups up into, the Greek word is party by party. So the Greek word right here is party by party. Can you see that? Like group by group. It's like a dinner party banquet. That's how the word is used. And it's like rows of vegetables in a series of garden plots. Like plots is like a partial part of land. Like a plot is like a small, or it could be large plot, an area of land. So it's like rows of vegetables in a series of garden plots. Okay, party by party. It's like a banquet word. It's for dinner banquets and all. Anyway, what he did is divide it up. He told them to divide it up into companies. I don't know exactly why. Instead of, he didn't have to do that. But he divided up into groups, 50s and hundreds and 50s. Okay, so very cool. Next, it says, then Jesus directed them to have all this sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and 50s. They divided up in companies, groups. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and then I'm going to take this in the next video and talk about this, but I'll end with this. He took this, it's very powerful. He took the 2 fish, Jesus broke it, kind of like what you do in the Last Supper. He broke it like this. He broke the bread like that. He broke it, and he committed to God. He blessed it. That means he prayed. Oh God, Lord of heaven and earth, thank you for your bread. Thank you for the blessings of prospering us and giving us food and all that. He prayed, did a prayer. And then he gave it back to his disciples. And then the disciples distributed it. And he fed everyone. That's what we're going to talk about the next time. But so cool. And I guess I want to emphasize a couple things here. 1, bring whatever you have to Jesus and let him multiply it. Let him make it great. Whatever you have, your time, your money, your soul, your heart. You don't seem to be, maybe you don't feel like you're talented. Give your talent to God. Let him take yourself and watch what he does with your life. He makes it meaningful. You can make a difference in this world. And so that little boy offered his food. He had nothing. He gave it all up, and then he got plenty back. And later you'll see how much they got back. Wow. It was leftovers. God wants to make you overflowing with abundance. He said, I came that you might have life and they might have it more abundantly. He just wants to abundantly prosper you. And so the kid gave it all, and then everybody got it all. Fed the whole crowd. There's significance in that. By the way, that happened in 2 Kings. A very small paragraph of a verse where a guy, actually a prophet, prayed and gave it to him. And he had 20 loaves, the little loaves and all. And he fed 100 men, 100 group. Because Jesus is kind of repeating. Also, Jesus, like Moses. God, through Moses, made manna and fed 250,000 250 million to 3 million people. 250,000 or something. All right, I figured it out. 180,000. You just numbered out to about 3 million. Or maybe 2.5 million people. That's what I was trying to say. Anyway, very, very cool. And kind of like Jesus is showing the power of who he is. The power of who he is. Jesus Christ literally did that miracle, and all the gospel writers wrote about it. It was very significant, very powerful, very like, wow, they remembered that. No food, and then they have it. And there's lots of stories of God providing for people. I think of that wonderful orphanage guy, George Mueller, who had no food for his orphans. And he had all these kids. He said, sit down, we're going to eat. There's no food in the house. He sat down with a plate. They made the table. They I think this is accurate. I hope I'm saying this right. That's what I heard. And they sat down, and the kids are like, there's no food on the table. They're all little hungry kids here. And Georgia prayed and thanked God for the food. Empty plates, silverware, drinks, maybe they had water. And then as soon as he ended praying, someone knocked on the door. And he opened the door and said, I don't know why I'm supposed to do this, but God told me to do this in here. And he loaded with groceries. God will take care of you. I love this song. I'm going to try to sing, sorry. It's an oldie but goodie. It's very effective, all but effective. It goes, it matters to him about you, your heartaches, your sorrows, he shares. Whatever, regardless of what you may do. I'll end with this. He wants you, he loves you, he cares. Just super great. So he loves you and he cares about you. And God has a power to bring provision. He provides for you. He wants to supply you everything you need in life. Trust him. And the disciples learned a lot of lessons that day. Trusting Jesus. And when there's nothing, he can make something out of nothing. After all, he made the universe out of nothing. All right, thank you very much for listening. I hope you got something out of that. we'll continue with this story and see what happens in the end. All right, God bless you. Bye.